Repetition in any form can be an incredibly powerful way to cultivate change. So in this episode, I want to introduce you to a concept that will help you capture and steer the power of repetition when we apply it to the way we think about ourselves and our abilities. And that concept is called a Workday Mantra. Let's talk about how to do it. Here we go. Hey, welcome to the Workday Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Amoroso. Every workday we encounter dozens of situations that we have to navigate in order to have a successful and productive workday. And the way you choose to think through those situations helps shape not only the kind of day you have, but the trajectory of your career. This podcast is all about helping you to navigate those situations, show up at your best, and be happier at work. If you think about it, most of the challenges that we encounter during a workday have very little to do with the performance of the actual work itself. The majority of challenges that we face are related to thoughts or feelings or emotions that we experience in connection with that work. So it's our minds that really are the drivers for how we move through and interpret everything that happens during a workday. In addition to that, at their core, we can trace every action we take back to an originating thought that we had. In other words, our thoughts are what drive the actions that we take. And because of this, because our thoughts are at the heart of everything that we do, the most important thing we can do is learn how to strengthen our mindset so that we can be active participants in shaping how our workday goes. So if you feel powerless during a workday over the thoughts that you're having, or if you're consistently moving through your day feeling unhappy or wanting to make a change, the place you have to start is learning how to grow and strengthen your mindset. And mental strength is secured exactly the same way that physical strength is secured, through repetition. So we're very familiar with the concept that if you exercise regularly and eat well, then you're going to see changes in the way that you look and you feel. And we all know that this is generally true. The more we exercise and eat well over time, the more likely it is that we'll feel better and that our bodies will change internally and externally based on that repetition. By exercising, we get to literally shape our bodies and shape how we feel each day. And when we don't exercise, so on the flip side, then we invite our bodies to do whatever it wants to do without any input from us. It can expand, it can contract, it can feel tired, it can feel weak, it can literally do whatever it wants to do. And we're all very familiar with this framework as it applies to our physical bodies. But here's the deal. This same framework applies to our mindset. The more that we work on it consistently, the more we work it out, the more we take care of it, the more we get to shape and control what it does. So by exercising our mind, we can address fear and negative thoughts, and we can also make room for the kind of growth that we want to see. And just like with exercising our body, it's about reps. The more repetitions we have, the faster we'll grow and the more finely tuned our mindset will be. Now, I want you to take a second and picture a time when you've wanted to make a change physically and maybe you haven't exercised in a while. I think we can all, picture a time when that's been the case for us. Let's say that you want to start exercising 3 times a week. The first few times that you get up and go off to exercise, it's pretty hard, right? You feel sluggish and it feels like a challenge. And when we do that, we also don't see results immediately, which can make it hard to want to continue to follow through. But despite those initial feelings and that initial challenge, we know from experience that if we stick with it and put in the reps, then eventually it gets easier. It becomes more natural and our body actually starts to crave that feeling. It wants to be exercised because the benefits that come from exercising regularly are fresh in our mind. It's the exact same process when you want to train your mind. So let's say you want to change the way you think about a certain situation, or you want to start to establish a different belief about yourself or your abilities. So just as an example, let's say you want to increase your confidence in the value and the quality of the work that you're doing. The first time you have a new thought about your self-confidence in the work that you're doing, you might find it hard to accept that thought as true, and that's because it's not what you're used to. Instead, what you're probably used to is that nagging voice that shows up from time to time to remind you that your work's not that great, other people think you're not good enough, and so that new thought is initially in direct opposition with the thoughts that you've been having, your old beliefs and your old thoughts. But if you think about that new thought again and then again and then again, it becomes easier to accept. The more you repeat that thought, and if we keep doing it over and over again, we've now formed a new groove in our mindset and a new way of thinking. And if we engage in this new way of thinking long enough, and specifically if we keep repeating this new thought, then this thought eventually becomes our new default way of thinking. So there's no more room for doubt. We've established a belief simply through repetition. In order for this new thought to take hold, we have to be intentional, though, about getting in those reps. We have to make time for ourselves to repeat the thought that we want, to take time to envision ourselves in that new experience, and to turn it into a new belief. And we have to give it time to grow. And so that's where the concept in this episode comes into play, this idea of a Workday mantra. So just by way of a quick background, a mantra is traditionally a word or a phrase that's repeated during meditation or quiet time in an effort to really hone your focus on a single cause or a belief that you want to instill or reinforce. So it helps to really get laser focused on an intention that you want to set and achieve, and it's a powerful way to change our thoughts. And we can take this idea of a mantra and apply it in the context of our workday. So specifically, your Workday mantra is a series of words or phrases that, when you repeat them, help you to change a belief you have about who you are and what you're capable of. So there's a lot of science that has emerged around how powerful something like a mantra can be. For a long time, there was a bit of stigma around things like this, and people considered it to be just a little bit too mystical to be something that could work in a professional setting. But I can tell you from experience, this is a powerful way for you to shift how you think about yourself during your workday. And so if you're interested in changing the way you're thinking about yourself or your abilities, or if there's a belief that you want to reinforce, I want to give you a 3-step process here that will help you to create your own personal Workday mantra. So step 1 is to identify one thought you have during your day that's limiting you about how you think about yourself, or maybe limiting how you think about your abilities. So going back to my example, maybe your thought is, my work isn't good enough. My work isn't good enough. And this is a thought that ends up popping into your mind consistently. So step 2 is, once you've identified that thought, now we're going to create a Workday mantra. And in order to do that, I want you to come up with a phrase or a second thought that's aligned with and represents the new way you want to think about this particular situation or this particular belief that you have about yourself and your abilities. So maybe the phrase that you come up with is, my clients value the work I do for them. My work changes their lives. My clients value the work I do for them. My work changes their lives. So this is just an example, but this phrase could represent the new belief you want to have that more accurately represents who you are. And then in the third step, we just want to repeat this very specific phrase over and over several times a day. So saying it out loud is the best way to do this, or if you prefer, you can write it out over and over on a piece of paper, but you have to repeat it. And I want you to say the same thing every single time. My clients value the work I do for them. My work changes their lives. I would recommend you start by doing this for 2 minutes straight, at least once a day, without any interruptions. And as you're doing this, I want you to envision a time when you got positive feedback from a client or someone who praised you for your work. The more you say this phrase over and over, the more it sinks into your subconscious and the more you start to believe and acknowledge it as true. So this is the way that we start to build repetitions in. And it's one way to start exercising your brain so that it can grow and replace those old limiting thoughts and beliefs. So as you go about doing this, it might feel a little awkward at first. Like, really? You want me to say this out loud over and over again? And the answer is yes. I want you to say this out loud over and over again. Like I said before, there's a ton of science that says that this kind of a practice really helps to solidify new positive thoughts. So to recap, here's the steps I want you to take. Step 1, identify a limiting belief that you have about yourself or your abilities. Step 2, identify a Workday mantra. Step 3, repeat your Workday mantra for at least 2 minutes a day, just as a starting point. You can always add on to it later, but I want to give you a really simple entry point to begin with. Before I sign off, I want to leave you with a quick story. So I'm the host of a weekly series called 11 at 11, and it's a live members-only webinar that I host every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific, where I share one thing each week that you can do to improve your workday. And each episode lasts around 11 minutes. So if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely give it a try. You can sign up at drewamoroso.com/links, and you'll find a link there that you can use to sign up. Would love to have you join. So at a recent 11 at 11, I taught my members how to craft a Workday mantra. And I had one member who came back a few weeks later, and she shared the results of her mantra with our group. And it turns out that this member is a relatively new owner of a law firm, but she's been practicing for years. And she created a mantra to really bolster her confidence because she has a huge vision for growing her firm and because she wants to grow personally in order to achieve that vision. And so she shared with us a simple mantra that she created, which goes like this: I have valuable, relevant experience that benefits my clients. I have valuable, relevant experience that benefits my clients. So it was really just a simple mantra that was right on point for her. And she also shared that she just took opportunities throughout the day to say that mantra to herself for a few minutes here and there. So when she was looking in the mirror, getting ready in the morning, when she was starting her workday, things like that. And she told us that pretty soon after she started saying it, she had 2 of her first clients sign up. Now, for anyone who's thinking that this is a mere coincidence, I just want to point out that one of the benefits of a mantra like this is that when you start to think differently about yourself, you translate those different thoughts into the way that you interact with people, the confidence you project, your ability to spot opportunities, and your willingness to transcend fearful moments and go after clients and opportunities, just to name a couple of examples, and there are many. In other words, a mantra can help to change the energy and enthusiasm and focus that you bring to all of your interactions, which can absolutely lead to new business or exuding a sense of confidence to your clients or anyone else around you, your family, your friends, your community. So I guess we'll never know the extent to which her mantra helped, but I pass on this story because this kind of a simple practice, day after day, can be a transformational way to shift your focus toward a new way of thinking that can lead to not only a new kind of workday, but a new way of life. Go have a great workday. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Workday Mindset Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I'd appreciate it if you could head over to whatever service you're using to tune in and give us a 5-star review. The Workday Mindset Podcast is a collaboration with Populous Radio. Check out their other shows at populousradio.com. Thanks for tuning in, and go get them.